There are countless spots around the world where unexplainable events happen. They could involve haunted homes, cursed asylums, or foreboding woods. We know not to go near them, however some places you stumble across accidentally or simply you can't avoid. If you're in a car, you feel safe behind your four doors for the most part, however that does not keep you safe from these haunted roads. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 cursed roads in North America. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. In at number 5 we have Riverdale Road. Riverdale Road is an 11-mile road connecting Thornton and Brighton and is said to be the subject of several myths and legends, with many folks calling it one of the most haunted places in the entire world. One legend states that the road is quite literally the gates to hell. So there are in fact gates on Riverdale Road made of rusty iron, however it's the story behind them which is quite terrifying. People are said to visit these gates in hopes of seeing the Lady in White. According to legend, the man who built the gates lost his mind, and when he was finished, he burned down his entire home with his family asleep inside. Now visitors to the road and gates often report seeing the woman in white. She is said to be the wife burned in her home who is now searching the streets for her children and even her husband. Another legend is that you may very well get chased by some ghostly joggers. There are countless accidents that happen on Riverdale Road, especially involving pedestrians who decide to go on a run down the busy road. One jogger was reportedly hit while out for a run one day, and it is now said that his ghostly spirit now haunts the road. Another famous legend involving Riverdale Road is that of the bloody handprints. According to locals, a spirit is said to dwell on Riverdale Road, the spirit of a young boy. While on his way home he was supposedly struck by a car. Now his spirit paces the streets, smearing handprints on every street sign as he walks by. In at number 4 we have Boy Scout Lane. Boy Scout Lane is an isolated road located in Wisconsin. Over the years, dozens of ghost stories have become associated with the road, including the fictional deaths of a troop of Boy Scouts. The road was named Boy Scout Lane simply because the land was once owned by the Boy Scouts of America, who planned to use it to build scout camps, although this was never constructed, with the land remaining woodland. According to local legend, the road is named for a troop of Boy Scouts who were killed while on a camping trip in the 1950s or 1960s. In some variations, the murderer is the troop's scoutmaster. In others, it is said to be their bus driver, while in other tellings of the story the group of scouts leave their camp during the night and accidentally drop their lantern, resulting in the forest fire that kills the entire troop. Stories circulated with visitors supposedly feeling a strong sense of foreboding or being watched, as well as the sound of footsteps or breaking branches in the surrounding area. On top of that, others have reported seeing red or white lights, sometimes described as swinging lanterns or flashlight beams, ghostly buses or figures, and even childlike handprints on cars stopped in or driven through the area. Coming in at number 3 we have Clinton Road. Clinton Road is located in New Jersey, with the road running in a north-south direction beginning at Route 23 near Newfoundland. The road itself has gained notoriety over the years due to it being rife with paranormal occurrences and unexplainable phenomenon. Some of these include gatherings of witches, Satanists, and the KKK. It is also said that professional killers dispose of bodies in the woods surrounding Clinton Road. One legend is said about the Ghost Boy Bridge. According to locals, if you put a quarter in the middle of the road where the yellow line is, at one of the bridges over Clinton Brook near the reservoir, at midnight it will supposedly be promptly returned by the ghost of a boy who drowned while swimming below or had fallen in while sitting on the edge of the bridge. Besides the Ghost Boy, there have been other reports of ghosts. One person claims to have seen a ghost Camaro driven by a girl who supposedly died in a car crash in 1988. Another claims to have encountered 2 park rangers one night while camping near Terrace Pond. They were said to be 2 rangers who had died on the job in 1939. On top of that, according to the Travel Channel show Most Terrifying Places in America 2, phantom vehicles such as pickup trucks or even floating headlights not attached to any vehicle supposedly appear from nowhere in the middle of the night and chase drivers to the end of the road and then vanish into thin air. Coming in at number 2 we have Route 2A. Maine seems to be a stomping ground for ghostly activity, but no place seems to be more haunted than Route 2A, a rural section in the northern part of Maine. This stretch of road runs through Haynesville Woods, which is located near the town of the same name. Now, prior to the construction of Interstate 95, Route 2A was the most utilized road by truck drivers hauling potatoes out of Maine. It was also said to be incredibly treacherous in the winter months, with one turn that is nearly 90 degrees. Some may in fact be familiar familiar with the song A Tombstone Every Mile. This was infamously written about Route 2A and is a reference to the many fatal accidents that have occurred on the road. Given the sheer amount of tragedies that have occurred on the road, it comes as no surprise that it now has a haunted history. One of the most notable stories coming from drivers on the deadly road discuss that of a young woman in need of help. She is said to appear seemingly out of nowhere and is in distress. Drivers report pulling over to help the woman and offer her a ride, which she is said to accept. While in the car, drivers say they feel uneasy and that there is a distinct chill in the air around them. As the car begins to near the end of the road, the woman disappears completely. Locals say that this is the ghost of a newlywed bride who was involved in a car accident with her husband in the same woods. The husband died immediately, but the woman was able to escape the car. However, while struggling down the street, she met her end by freezing to death on the side of Route 2A. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Archer Avenue. Sometimes referred to as Archer Road, this is a place outside of Chicago that is rumored to be incredibly haunted. The avenue was originally made famous by Finley Peter Dunne in his books and sketches about the fictional saloon keeper Mr. Dooley. However, it has become more infamous over time due to purportedly being haunted by Resurrection Mary, a vanishing hitchhiker. Resurrection Mary is well known around the Chicago area and has become a folklore of sorts that is known throughout many cultures. The legend itself is based outside of Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois, with Mary considered to be one of Chicago's most famous ghosts. The story goes that Mary had spent the evening dancing with her boyfriend at the O. Henry Ballroom. However, at some point during the night, the couple got into an argument, resulting in Mary storming out. She left the ballroom and began to walk up Archer Avenue. She hadn't gotten very far when a truck struck and killed her, with the driver fleeing the scene. Her parents buried her in Resurrection Cemetery, wearing a white dancing dress and matching shoes. Now, since the 1930s, several people driving along Archer Avenue have claimed to have picked up a young female hitchhiker. They say that the woman was dressed in a white party dress and had blonde hair and blue eyes. When the driver's near the cemetery, the young woman supposedly asks to be let out, whereupon she disappears altogether back into the cemetery. Over the years, many researchers have attempted to link Resurrection Mary to one of the many thousands of graves in Resurrection Cemetery. One of the particular focuses was on Mary Bregovi, a woman who died in 1934 after being involved in a car accident in downtown Chicago. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with that list? Were there any roads that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos, top 5 scary horror movie monsters from the 2000s. Zachzilla said J.J. Abrams is overrated. Well, to each their own, but I personally love J.J. Abrams. He was the man behind Lost, and Lost is one of my favourite shows of all time, even though for a second I forgot that he did it. I also loved Cloverfield, so if you don't like J.J. Abrams, that's your own problem. You have to live with that. Saint Dan in a nutshell said, Lucy, I loved this list, thank you as always. You're very welcome, I also loved the list. Maybe we can do a part 2. Graylem said, Dead Silence is one of the best horror movies of the 2000s. Stupid critics don't know Jack. Well, I agree with you. We don't trust critics over here at Top 5, even though I love to talk about Rotten Tomatoes to you all off. Daniel Delap said, love Trick or Treat. Me too. It's my favourite, well, not my favourite Halloween movie. It's one of my favourite Halloween movies. I watch it every October. Andy Lambert said, how can you possibly be 27? I suspect nefarious deeds are afoot. Perhaps a painting in the attic or bathing in the blood of YouTube commenters. Thank you, I really appreciate that because I am getting a lot of forehead wrinkles. So the fact that you don't think I look my age, God bless. Unless you think I look older than 27, in which case you can go to hell and never come back, so. Thanks. Anderson said, everybody's simping for Lucy. Well, no one simps in real life, so please simp in the comments. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary bit. And until next time, see you later. Stop saying quite literally. Well, stupid crickets is at one of the bridges. Where the yellow line is at. Oh, I see. Route 2A was the most utilised road by truck drivers, hauling. This was infamously written about Route 2. Not T. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any roads that we missed? Why did I say it like that? He was the man behind Lost? Question mark? He was, right? Am I making that up? J.J. Abrams. Lost. Right? Chris? Help me. Yeah, Lost. Okay, cool. Alright, I'll say it with more confidence now.
Vampires are some of the most versatile monsters imaginable. Like, plop a vampire in any era and it immediately becomes shorthand for whatever problems people have. Back when Bram Stoker was writing about Count Dracula, he created an aristocratic, well-moneyed bloodsucker who exploited people for their land and their red liquids. Bounce forward to that same Count, but done up on the big screen, and all of a sudden you have a sexual monster that seduces and hypnotizes vulnerable young folks. Jump forward again to the Twilight era, and there are vampires that sparkle. What I'm trying to say here is that blood-sucking humanoids will forever be scary, so of course there are plenty of urban legends surrounding them. Rules, things to watch out for, ideas that might stop them, and more. It's quite fascinating when you really sink your teeth in. That's it, folks. We've reached the pinnacle of comedy. You can go home. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're gonna take a look at the top 5 scary vampire urban legends. I suppose that vampires themselves are urban legends, but we won't think too long about that. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more visceral voraciousness. Perfect, let's begin. Coming in at number 5, we've got Boneless Boys. You may be familiar with the claim that vampires are shapeshifters. Depending on who you ask and what vampires they're familiar with, you'll get all sorts of different stories about men who turn into beasts. Bats are a popular figure, but there are also tales of cats, dogs, wolves, rats, and more. Hell, if you've seen Dracula 3D, you'll know that some might even transform into gigantic praying mantises and scuttle up the stairs to kill your dad. They're quite versatile vampires. But you might not know about another type of shapeshifting some folks say they have. One that makes them even more versatile than any beastly form could ever hope to be. That's right, I'm talking about the boneless vampire. What do you mean boneless? Well, I mean they literally have no bones. Now, I can't prove this, but tell me, have you ever seen a vampire's skeleton? Whenever they die, whether it be by stake or by fire, they disintegrate into dust or other similar vampire particles, right? They leave no bones behind because there are no bones. It's a revelation, I know. But they can still walk and talk like any other humanoid, but with the added benefit of vampire powers. Plus, this bonelessness means they're fantastically flexible, which works wonders in their seductive activities and their sneaking into homes to drink blood. Even if you lock your abode up tight, a vampire can contort its boneless form and make it through the tiniest of cracks. Keyholes? Not just for keys anymore. I bet you didn't expect me to lead with a legend like that, now did ya? Hopefully that sets the tone. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Soucouyant. A lot of folks look to European legends to find out about vampires, but they really do exist all around the world. By different names, sure, but they still suck blood and pass for people. One such fascinating bloodsucker is the Soucouyant from Jamaica. The creature takes on the form of a shriveled old lady by day. You might even see her at the market and offer her a helping hand. But if you knew what she did by moonlight, you'd take your helping hands elsewhere. A Soucouyant will shed her skin at night, becoming a blood-drinking fireball. This skinless apparition can then float around the community, drinking the blood of anyone unfortunate enough to become a target. After a long night of draining folks of their vital essences, the fireball returns home to its discarded skin. It can then don the loose organ like a suit and return to life as an old lady. With every use, the skin becomes more and more wrinkly, wear and tear and all that jazz. Usually the Soucouyant will do a pretty good job of hiding her skin after she's freed for the night because it's left pretty vulnerable. While flying around, nothing can really be done to protect the skin. So if you ever find some skin, do your best to mess with it. Some folks say that if you salt or pepper it, it'll cause her to experience extreme burning and itching upon return. Another thing you can do to combat a Soucouyant is scatter rice or salt on your doorstep. It won't protect anyone's blood, but it'll slow the monster down. Like so many other mythical demons, if it comes across a smattering of rice or salt, she'll be compelled to hunker down and count every last grain before leaving. This tends to take a while, leaving the beast exposed and distracted. Take that opportunity to beat her to death, or toss her in a vat of boiling oil. It might seem cruel to do that to what looks like an old lady, but hey, you gotta save your blood somehow. Coming in at number 3, we've got vampire pumpkins. Legends are weird, alright? And this one's no exception. I don't quite understand how this came to be a common conception, but it's well documented by the ethnologist Tadimir Vukanovic. Apparently, there was a long-standing belief in the Balkans that if you left a pumpkin or watermelon out for more than 10 days, it would become a vampire. That's right, the gourds would transform into humanoid bloodsuckers. I think I understand Akira Toriyama's vampire comic a little better now. Imagine that, leaving a pumpkin on your stoop for a solid fortnight after Halloween and waking up to an empty yard. Most folks would assume some vandals made off with it, planning to smash it with baseball bats or throw it off a building. But no, it actually just turned into a vampire and now you're gonna get seduced and bit. Great. If this is true, folks better get right on their composting habits. It's similar to the belief that any given object left outside overnight during a full moon will become a vampire. I think this legend originates from people being dumb with their belongings, but I might just be reaching. You can be sure that your produce is about to make a change if a drop of blood appears on its skin. Oh, and the pumpkin vampires can change back into pumpkins, so even if it doesn't disappear, you can be the proud owner of some cannibalistic vegetables. Coming in at number 2, we've got Jiangshi. Let's take a trip to China this time and learn about some of their bloody beasts. A popular one is the hopping vampire, also known as the Jiangshi. Usually appearing as a stiff corpse dressed in Qing Dynasty clothing, these undead beings hop around looking for life force to drain. Life force isn't specifically blood in this case, but the two line up just fine. They spring to and fro during the night, hoping to come across some hapless folks. And just like vampires from other cultures, they spend the day locked up in dark places like coffins and caves. They hop because they're corpses. Rigor mortis has long since set in, making it impossible for them to bend their limbs. So instead of walking, running, or any other sort of human locomotion, they can hop around as best they can. They're also an odd green-white tint, frequently attributed to mold from being buried so long. These vampires are a little less sexy than a lot of the other ones. There are a few ways to survive an encounter with the Jiangshi. You can write a spell in chicken's blood on a yellow piece of paper and stick it to their forehead. Or you can use a sword forged from Chinese coins that has been charged under moonlight. Apparently throwing sticky rice at one will draw the evil out. Maybe they were just hungry. Oh, and connecting this to the boneless bits, although I don't know if that really applies here, conventional wisdom says that a piece of wood could be installed at the bottom of a door to prevent Jiangshi from entering. It's always fun to connect those dots. And finally at number 1, we've got the Blood Countess. When discussing the origins of vampires, many folks look right to Vlad the Impaler. This Wallachian prince is more than likely the inspiration for Count Dracula's name, as he was a member of the Order of the Dragon. Being a member of this order gave him the surname Dracul, which is only one letter off from the name we know and fear today. But even though Vlad tended to be violent and steak happy, the real blood drainer was waiting in Hungary. Elizabeth Ballery was a countess well known for her brutal lifestyle. Legend says that she tortured and killed over 650 women throughout her life. In true vampiric fashion, she believed that bathing in blood of young girls would keep her young. She was going for a youthful appearance, not eternal life, but you can see how that might have influenced vampire lore. Ballery drained plenty of girls of their blood in order to keep herself young. This practice also seems to be a little more sadistic and fetishistic than Vlad's brutal display of slain enemies. Hold on, aren't some celebrities paying for young people blood infusions now? History has an eerie way of repeating itself, doesn't it? String up your garlic and bust out your mirrors. There are all sorts of additional vampire tidbits to fear now. What'd you think of the list? Did you know about all these vampire myths and legends? What's your favorite vampire fact? Would you let a vampire bite you if they promise not to kill you? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more snide ones from the top 5 strange New York urban legends. Sassy Karen says, please do a story about Maryland's creepy mysteries, especially about Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite having a bottle of cognac placed on his grave for so many years. Even local channels would put up cameras around it hoping to catch the mysterious person, but would never see anyone, yet the bottle would still show up. Thank you for such a great channel with interesting content. Man, I wish some mysterious force bring me booze for all eternity. Largo778 says, when you do Florida urban legends, be sure to add Florida Man. Florida Man is beyond an urban legend at this point. He is a living superhuman. Don Pandemoniac says, gator riding mole people while using the broadcast tower to EMP our cars, making us easy prey. I'd watch that movie. Eli Gonzalez says, I'm pretty upset you didn't mention the legend of the chopped cheese from the Bronx that screeches "yer" at 3 a.m. and scuffs your Tim's is caught lacking at 3 a.m. See, that legend is for locals only. I couldn't touch it. And Kazuma-kun says, Spider-Man isn't the only one to get a cool villain out of sewer gators. Killer Croc has a cooler name, but a less interesting backstory, to be fair. Granted, Killer Croc is a wicked name, but Spider-Man takes place in New York City, while Batman lives in Gotham. Although I guess Gotham's just like alternate New York. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I get attacked at a gas station by a splinter-covered nightmare, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more heart-stopping hellishness. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey, Soucouyant will sit up. Actually, no. That's kind of a gross joke, isn't it? Scratch that. Anything you can do to combat a Soucouyant is... Another thing you can do to combat... Another thing you... Man, I
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Top 5 Scary Videos. Look, if you haven't checked out our other creepy McDonald's videos, make sure you head over and check those out right after this one ends, because you don't want to miss them. I've never liked clowns. I've said this over and over again, and I never will like clowns. Ronald McDonald has always been weird to me. I don't, like, my last name's McWatters. Maybe it's an MC thing, I don't know. I mean, I do remember one time my friends ordered a McChicken, some McNuggets, and lastly, and loudly, a small McWater. Everybody looked at grade 9 me and laughed. Real funny, guys. I'm over it. Mostly. This dude creeps me out. The whole atmosphere creeps me out. The ball pits, that didn't help anybody, especially when they found needles and blades. Like, when it comes to McDonald's, there's never a dull moment. Pun intended. But why do we need a clown to sell burgers? It's never made sense to me. Like, yeah, I'd love a junior chicken, but can you tell that creepy clown to stop waving at me? Thanks. Debit? So of course, it was only a matter of time before I got into it with this clown madness and broke down some of those spooky tales. That being said, I'm Taylor McWatters, and here are our top 5 Ronald McDonald urban legends. Number 5, clown craziness. Okay, so back in 2016, we were all thrilled when the new cool thing was dressing up like a clown and staring at people as they drove by at nighttime. I never saw one of these clowns, luckily. I mean, because if I did, I wouldn't be here. My heart would have stopped. I would have fainted. I would have my pants. What was the deal? Why did everybody have professional clown costumes all of a sudden? Or even a better question, where did this all start? Well, we have some ideas. So in a handful of Japanese commercials for McDonald's that aired years before this whole craziness, Ronald McDonald is shown doing various weird things in these ads. I mean, in one of the ads, his big clown hand slides through a locked door and tries to open it. And then, in another commercial, he's laying on the floor motionless while this lady's on the phone sitting above her bed above him. But my favorite one has to be this one. That's the commercial. Huh? Imagine the director being like, yeah, you're just gonna run down this alley real fast and then people are gonna buy your shit. Okay, and action. So this series of commercials that nobody asked for is said to be the inspiration behind the clown phenomenon. Even McDonald's pulled back on the Ronald McDonald stuff. Isn't anybody else curious why their main guy is just gone all of a sudden? Poof. Where did he go? Back to hell? Maybe he got a promotion in the Illuminati, or maybe they realized he was in fact disgustingly creepy and we're like, you know what, we're gonna let you go. Way to go, guys. We made Ronald McDonald quit. Awesome. I'd rather cancel him. Can we cancel him? Let's do it. So what if this happened with Burger King? Just like a bunch of majestic people walking around all slow, just gracing the lands, giving out burgers. That would have been much nicer. So what do you guys think? Did these advertisements inspire the clown craze phenomenon, or was it just odd timing? Let us know. Number 4, the haunted bench. Okay, so do you remember going to McDonald's, like maybe in like a mall, and you'd see that bench with Ronald sitting there? He's always like, has his arm out, all looking weird and stuff. I mean, it's kind of cute. I mean, he's got his arm around, he's smiling. I was like taking photos with my friends on the bench. It was always a silly time. Now, what would you do if you were sitting there next to old Ron McDonald's and he spoke to you? Yeah. Legend has it, back in 2005 in Mexico, a Ronald McDonald bench is said to be haunted. Of all things to haunt, this is the weirdest and worst thing. So the story goes as such. According to Pariah Paranormal, 2 guys were out drinking, partying it up, listening to the WAP, you know, tearing it up, living life to the fullest. When they decided they needed a bite on the way home, as we all do after a night out with friends. I'm glad I'm not the only one who craves those fries after a few drinks. Oh, they're so good. So they decided to make a quick stop and post up on one of these Ronald McDonald landmark benches. And as they enjoyed their feast, they began getting full and inevitably tired from dancing up a storm. One of the friends gets up to throw the trash away. Good man, don't litter, don't litter. And the other laid down on Ronald McDonald's lap, expressing his fatigue. It was then that the statue of the sitting Ronald McDonald looked down, touched the friend's head, and said, "I'm tired too," or whatever he sounds like, I don't know. Probably, "I'm tired too." It's probably gross. One of them apparently had a heart attack because, well, yeah. Now, this is an urban legend, so there's not too much evidence surrounding it, but apparently the McDonald's security cameras caught the whole thing on tape. And McDonald's has been said to have paid out a massive fortune to keep it hush-hush. Again, like I said earlier, imagine if this was the Burger King mascot. He probably would have knighted you instead of giving you a heart attack. Real or not, this urban legend is too creepy to not include in our list. Number 3, Illuminati. Okay, so we've heard countless urban legends that involve the Illuminati. But Ronald McDonald, come on. Is he part of it? Really? I mean, perhaps. So after Stephen King denied responsibility for this clown madness years ago, they had to go to somebody to find a motivation. Now, of course, they went to him first. I mean, it takes a weirdo to write It. Have you read that book? If not, you should. It's thick, very thick. We should be asking Stephen King much more questions, I'll tell you that for free. So if not him, then who? Bonk bonk, Ronald McDonald. Hello, yep, he's the clown. Illuminati blogger simply named Bruce conveys a pretty compelling argument to some. comparing the clown to Satan, like, you know, Satan. Bruce states in a blog titled McDonald's Mind Control and Illuminati, he wrote, "With a head of red hair and face paint reminiscent of heathen rituals, this classic image is little more than a farce." Okay, Bruce, we're listening. He goes on to explain that the design of Ronald McDonald is purposely done by the Illuminati to appeal to children, to make them more susceptible to notions of Satan and hell. I mean, look at him, he's not exactly wrong. Creepy face, no, blah. So this clown cult uses a method known as monarch mind control that makes people do these Illuminati missions planted in their heads. So this truly could be the meaning behind the clown craze after all. Are all these clowns just part of a clown Illuminati army? Like, can I join? I'd love to join. I'd rather, you know, join and lay low and hide instead of being hunted by these dudes. I wouldn't McLove that at all. If you can't beat them, join them. Number 2, possessed fry cook. This next one's a little alarming. It's not really for the faint of heart, just a heads up. I had to add this urban legend in the mix because it might be connected to the Illuminati point that I just made. Okay, so back in 1999 in Vermont, a McDonald's was operating as normal. Happy Meals, fries that are somehow never salty enough. Good times all around. Until a fry cook randomly grabbed the boiling oil, walked to the middle of the restaurant, and dumped it on his head, like he was possessed. I mean, this guy didn't even react to the burning hot oil. And to make matters worse, others got involved. And not in the way that they probably should have at that point. Yeah, customers started joining in on the nightmare and began to roll around on the floor with the hot oil. Unlike the fry cook, they reacted with laughter. What is going on? So eventually somebody got a handle on the situation and intervened. Thank you. So shortly after, the ambulances came and took the burnt, brainwashed victims to the hospital. What a strange call that would have been. This is back in '99 also, so it's not like there's any footage of this rolling around on WorldStar or anything like that. This is still an urban legend. But the one survivor from the incident, yeah, only one survived, they couldn't even explain what happened. Because the burns did so much damage, they lost the ability to speak. And as if this nightmare wasn't bad enough, the manager of that McDonald's location says they didn't even hire that fry cook. Who was this guy? There was no paperwork to even look up about him. So next time you want somebody to cover a shift, just double check that they aren't working for the Illuminati, Satan, or Ronald McDonald. And finally, number 1, the Ronald McDonald house. Buckle up folks, this next one I saved for last for good reason. So my friend always pulls the tabs off his soda cans. He does it without even thinking about it. Thinking it was a nervous tick, I asked him why. He said, oh, it's just out of habit from when people were donating pop tabs, you know? Does this ring a bell? It should, because it rings a bell with me. As soon as he said that, I remember doing the same. I remember seeing commercials about it, like the whole thing, the Ronald McDonald's house. It all came back to me. So when I came across this last urban legend, it hit close to home because I knew there's some sort of truth sprinkled into this urban legend. The Ronald McDonald's house of Durham in North Carolina collected these aluminum tabs to recycle and reduce living expenses. Okay, so far so good, I'm on board. The Ronald McDonald's charity does a lot of great stuff, but of course the internet has to exist, so naturally there's creepy urban legends about it. This next one I read from a user who claims to be a 15-year-old foster kid. He says you don't find the house, you're taken to it. Okay, a little bit of a creepy turn there. He had never met his parents and was deemed a bad kid, so he got sent around foster families in Detroit. His caseworker presented to him 2 options. One being military school on Lansing, or the Ronald McDonald's house, which he was somehow cleared for. The caseworker went on to say that the Ronald McDonald's house has a great track record of taking foster children, and that all the kids who went there never had to be transferred anywhere else. That's a great sign, and evidently it worked. As they arrived to this tall, windowless gray building, the kid asked if he was sure this was the right place. Ugh. So once inside, it was very empty and quiet. The large doors closed behind them, and the caseworker continued to lead him through the lobby to the registration window. So far, so okay. The lady behind the glass turns and her face is painted, yep, you guessed it, like a goddamn clown. Talk about committing to the bit. So after seeing the lady smile, he realized, I'm probably in a pickle. Something felt off, and he expressed how badly he wanted to leave. And cue the nightmare fuel. Suddenly, a horde of clown nurses came in and grabbed him. The sounds of panic were quickly drowned out by the clown nurses' synchronized laughing. They then took him down a long white hallway, and the nurses injected him with something that made him pass out, all the while feeling gloves all over his face. Gross. After waking up, his clothes were replaced with a dirty hospital gown covered in Ronald McDonald faces. Cool pajamas, nice touch guys. All of his belongings from his backpack were even missing, except his old photo collection, which had been replaced with what looks like crime scenes that looked to be like his past foster families. The very back of the album had a note that simply read, You never existed. Okay then. So he tried finding a way out, of course, discovering new terrors along the way. Eventually he escapes his nightmare facility, seeing dead bodies and swarms of clowns chasing him the entire time. Once outside, he discovered what seems to be an abandoned McDonald's where he ducked in for safety. And shortly after, he uploaded this dark tale on a laptop that just happened to be sitting there. Is this believable? Does a Ronald McDonald's house steal and poison children? Probably not, but I've seen this story pop up far too often to ignore it. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are our top 5 Ronald McDonald's urban legends. Which one of these is gonna stick with you? That oil-burning dance party story kind of ruined my entire week, so hopefully I'm not alone. And as always, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming posts. I'm Taylor McWatters, and thanks for watching. Oh man, yeah, fries too? Like the fries there?
Yeah, the thing you have to get immediately, you can't.
Yeah,
wait,
no.
but man,
They're so salty. I just want to like suck all the salt off and put them back in. 10 minutes left, I'm like, yeah, we're getting McDonald's for dinner. Yeah, just reading this, I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ronald McDonald 1, Taylor nothing. That's it.
No, you skull fuck this cut off. 1 minute to.
No worries. I have WAP stuck in my head like for the last week.
Hopefully this is last week.
Yeah, man, I'm on the bus, I'm like.
Just carries on, just.
And it takes a weird brain to write it. Oh. He goes on to explain that the design. Come on, tongue. He goes on to explain that the design. Can you scroll back up, please, a little bit? Just a touch. Sorry. He goes on to explain that. Oh no.
While every country has their fair share of urban legends, it's hard to think of one that has influenced as many iterations of pop culture as Japan. Their urban legends have inspired countless movies, manga, anime, TV shows, and more. The ghosts and ghouls that roam the eastern island have a sort of wicked quality to them and capture the imagination in a heartbeat. Some are deadly, others simply mischievous. Regardless of their origins or intentions, there's no denying how creepy they can be. There seems to be a whole lot of them too, with new ones popping up all the time. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be counting down the top 5 scary Japanese urban legends. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more languid legends. Wicked. Let's get going. Kicking us off at number 5, we've got the Red Room Curse. If you're familiar with the dark web, or maybe even some Cronenbergian techno fetishes, you might assume that Red Room means murder broadcast, and technically, you're correct. But there's more than one Red Room out there, and the one we'll discuss today is a little less voyeuristic. Just as online though. The Red Room is an internet legend about a cursed pop-up that would appear from time to time on people's computers. It would show a door and ask, do you like the Red Room? Now you can answer yes or no or maybe, but the result is gonna be the same. People who have come across the pop-up are invariably found dead. Their room becomes the Red Room, with the walls covered in their blood. Shortly after the legend gained traction, a flash animation of a boy cursed by the pop-up showed up. It was quite popular at the time. In fact, it linked a real-life murder to the Red Room curse. The schoolgirl that committed the Sasebo slashing in 2004 was found to be a fan of the flash animation. The 11-year-old student killed her classmate with a utility knife, slashing her throat and arms. When questioned by police, she admitted to the crime and said that she had been bullied online. The girl she killed had called her a goody-goody and made mean comments about her weight. In addition to bookmarking the Red Room animation, it's also worth noting that the killer had read and watched Battle Royale, where school-age students fight to the death. Now, links between violent media and violence are always weak at best, but this is quite the interesting development. I knew pop-ups were annoying, but to lead to something like this? Sheesh. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Kunekune. While researching this, I also found that Kunekune is a very cute breed of pig. No relation. But if you get scared, maybe consider taking a look at a picture of a pig or two to take your mind off the spooks. The Japanese urban legend Kunekune is a lot less cute. In fact, try to look too close and you'll really regret it. The myth originated online around 2003 with people giving first-hand accounts of seeing this being. These reports were not unlike early accounts of Slenderman, with folks claiming to have seen or photographed something strange with bad things happening afterwards. Kunekune translates roughly to wriggling body, which is exactly what it does. It's a slender humanoid made of white paper or fabric that appears in fields on hot summer days around lunchtime. It's been seen on wide open rice fields most often, and sometimes even over open water. If there is a great expanse, you might see Kunekune off in the distance. This thing wiggles its limbs about endlessly as if it's being constantly blown by wind, even when there is none. It can only be seen from a distance. Interestingly enough though, people that seem to be right beside it don't tend to notice its presence. People have reported seeing workers on fields go about their business without so much as a passing glance at the thing. If you do see one from far away, do not try to get any closer. Looking too closely at a kunekune can cause you to go insane, and if you try to get close enough to touch one, it might kill you. Keeping your distance and not attempting contact is the best strategy here. It ignores people who offer it the same amount of disregard. Now, because of all the details concerning distance and lack of close-up confrontation, many skeptics claim that Kunekune is just people's overacting imaginations, misinterpreting maybe a scarecrow or a wick drain. But you will not find me hurtling through rice fields to find out. Coming in at number 3, we've got Tomino's Hell. You've likely heard of Dante's Inferno, which while often quite disturbing, doesn't come with a curse attached. Tomino's Hell does. This poem by Saijo Yaso depicts a young boy descending into hell for unnamed crimes. Sweet Tomino is going to Jigoku, the Buddhist hell. Speaking of Jigoku, if you haven't seen the flick of the same name by Nobuo Nakagawa, drop what you're doing and watch it right now. Not only is it a fantastic visual marvel of a movie, it'll also make the story much scarier through its depiction of Buddhist hell. It's never explicitly stated in the poem, but it appears as if Tomino is heading down for killing his family. Apparently, if you read this poem out loud, you'll be cursed. Misfortune and death will follow anyone who decides to recite it. Back when this tale was first circulated, there were plenty of folks who would post on 2chan claiming that they were going to try. Photos, videos, and sound clips of people reading the poem were posted. Many said that nothing happened to them, but some others never returned after saying the cursed words aloud. The poem itself isn't very long, so I considered reading it aloud for everyone out there, but kind of like not being cursed, so maybe I'll wait for a day when I feel more open to eternal torment. Feel free to try yourself though. Coming in at number 2, we've got Kuchisake-onna. It's hard to come up with a Japanese urban legend more popular than the slit-mouthed woman. She's on every list, featured in every article, plastered on the front of all sorts of movies, manga, and anime. This is an urban legend with staying power. The story goes that late at night, a woman wearing a surgical mask will approach lone travelers. Oftentimes, these solitary strollers will be children. She'll ask them, "Am I beautiful?" And if you answer no, you're cooked. She'll pull out a pair of gnarly scissors and kill you on the spot, so be nice. If you answer yes, she'll remove her mask, revealing a gruesome, grotesque grin. Her mouth has been lengthened, and what I mean by this is that her face is slit from ear to ear. Then she'll ask you the question again. If you answer no, well, you're still cooked, you die. But if you give her a positive answer, you're not much better off this time. Kuchisake-onna is so relieved that someone thinks she's beautiful, she'll want you to join in on the fun. The scissors come out and she'll give you a smile just like hers. Now you're twins. If you'd rather keep your life and your facial structure, you can try to confuse her. By answering with wishy-washy statements, you might find a window with which to escape. Some say that answering her questions with more questions can also result in confusion. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, how did she end up with that slit mouth? It's been said that she was an adulterous wife and her husband caught her cheating. In a rage, he cut her mouth, asking, "Who will think you're beautiful now?" Yikes. The surgical mask has always been a popular accessory in Japan, as it's considered good manners to wear one when you're sick. Now that masks are everywhere as a result of the current pandemic, do you think Kuchisake-onna will be making some appearances elsewhere? And finally at number 1, we've got Manto. This one scares me because of where it tends to happen. See, Manto, or Red Cloak, is a masked spirit who appears before folks using public restrooms. I like my privacy, thank you very much. There are many different variations on this legend, but usually the spirit will appear in a red cloak and ask someone on the toilet a question. Red toilet paper or blue? Just like the Matrix. However, there's less actual choice here. Pick either one and you'll end up the same. Choose red and you'll die a bloody death. Choose blue and you'll suffocate to death, turning blue. Even if you decide you'd rather use plain old white toilet paper, you'll be pulled to hell by a ghastly apparition. There is no winning here. Or is there? Apparently, you can leave the loo with your life if you politely refuse both options or if you ignore the toilet ghost outright. I mean, that's probably what I would do in the first place. Nobody needs some weirdo offering them premium TP when they're using the public bathroom. I accepted my one-ply fate when I came in here. You can also just run away without wiping, but come on, we've got standards, don't we? Apparently this myth dates all the way back to the 1930s. This toilet paper ghost has longevity. From open fields to public washrooms, nowhere seems to be safe, eh? Oh, well, it does seem that if you just ignore the ghosts, you're not in trouble. Some folks can't help it though, can they? How else would horror movies get made? So, what'd you think of the list? Did your favorite urban legend make the cut? What do you think the lessons behind all these are? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more jammy ones from the top 5 scary people who disappeared. Juto985 says those 2 girls take backstabbing way too seriously. Backstabbing's become such a commonly used term, I actually forgot that it originated from the literal stabbing of one's back. Funny how language works. St. Dan in a nutshell says, my family disappeared once and then I found my glasses. I could see again, but I never did find them. That had like 3 more twists than I expected. Good show. I Got Fandoms Uwu says, why the hell would parents let their children stay up? My mom doesn't even let me. Well, honestly, it's probably because the kids would whine otherwise, they just don't want to deal with it. But your mom doesn't let you stay up because she's heard of these disappearances. Isaiah Cottrell says, why does his mustache look like the Tiger King? Just you wait. As soon as I get to a barber, I'll have my hair bleached and mulleted too. And Prep For It says, choose your friends wisely, don't do drugs. Well, choose your friends wisely, yeah, and make sure you don't do meth. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I decide to really piss off the local bird population, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more spooky specters. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. But if you get scared, maybe consider looking at a picture of a pig or two, and sometimes even over open. Keeping your distance and not attempting to contact. You've likely the bullet, but it appears as if Tomino is, but it appears as if folks, that's, what do you think of the
Today we are making our way over to beautiful Australia. Australia is famous for its wildlife, beautiful nature, and of course its massive insects. But the deadly insects or reptiles aren't the only thing to be afraid of, because Australia, most like other places, is filled with creepy, spine-tingling urban legends. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to Top 5. I'm your host, Lindsay Ivan, and today I'm bringing you the top 5 scary urban legends from Australia. But before I begin, leave a comment below letting me know what country you are from and tell me one urban legend from your area. With that being said, let's get on into this video. Starting off this countdown, we have Fisher's Ghost. This is a pretty popular urban legend and ghost story in Australia. In fact, they even have a festival for this urban legend. It's called the Festival of Fisher's Ghost, and it's been celebrated since 1956 in Campbelltown. There was even a silent film made in 1924 based on this legend. So it said that on June 17th, 1826, a man named Frederick Fisher, a farmer from Campbelltown, mysteriously disappeared without a trace. His friend, George Worrell, claimed that he had went back to England. He even said that he received a letter from Fisher saying that he wasn't going to be returning to Australia. A couple of months later, a local man said that he saw the ghost of Mr. Fisher sitting on the rail of a nearby bridge. Apparently, the ghost pointed to the creek and then disappeared. After searching the creek, Fred's remains were found, and George was arrested for the murder. Obviously, anyone could have guessed that. Now it's said that if you return to the bridge at night, you'll be able to see Fisher's ghostly body sitting on the edge staring into the creek. As a result of this legend, the creek has been named as Fisher's Ghost Creek. In our 4th spot, we have the Drop Bears. Who here is a fan of koalas? Koalas are so cute and are anything but scary, right? Well, yeah, maybe, but their relatives, the drop bear, are definitely not. Legend goes that there are carnivorous predators known as drop bears that closely resemble koalas. It's said that these predators inhabit treetops in Australia. There are just too many stories of tourists getting viciously attacked by these creatures. It's also said that they can grow to the size of a leopard, and their arms are so powerful that they can just tear their victims into pieces. Now, this one is indeed a hoax. Thankfully, there are no giant koala type beasts. A lot of people wonder how this legend of the drop bear came to be, but now it's just used as a fun little joke to scare tourists. Moving on to number 3, we have the Princess Theater Ghost. On March 3rd, 1888, an actor named Frederick Federici died suddenly on stage while performing his final scene. Very symbolic. Frederick was playing the role of a demon, and during his descent down through a trapdoor, which was supposed to represent his descent into hell, he suffered a heart attack and died. Now, legend goes that his ghost haunts the theater. In fact, all the cast members said that they saw Frederick on stage with with them during their final bows for that show. Since that night, Frederick has been seen all throughout the theater. It's said that he likes to make an appearance on opening nights, and the cast believe that that is a sign of good luck. Coming in at number 2, we have the Crown Casino Morgue. If you ever go to Australia, why not go to Crown Casino, the largest casino in Australia? Maybe you could make it big. Well, that's exactly what attracts thousands of individuals to this casino. They all hope that they will be lucky enough to hit the jackpot. However, it's said that there is a morgue underneath this casino. According to this legend, a lot of people take their lives at this casino. Enough so that they needed to create a whole morgue to be able to store all the bodies. Having a morgue underneath the casino was their way to try and conceal the high mortality rate that they face. It's also said that there are trained workers there that deal with the bodies and carry them discreetly off the premise through secret passageways. There's even a related theory that the Yarra River is brown in color because of corpses from the casino being dumped into the water there. Although the Crown Casino has denied all these accusations, it's still a pretty creepy legend that some people believe to be true. And in our number 1 spot, we have Schneider's Alley. In the early 1900s, a man named Dr. Michael Schneider moved into a mansion with his wife and kids. On his large lot of land, the doctor also had a cabin in which he would treat his patients. It's said that his patients normally had schizophrenia or suffered from other mental illnesses. He treated them in his cabin to keep them away from his family. All was going well until his wife and daughters unexpectedly died. This caused him to go mad. Legend goes that after the passing, the doctor started to torture his patients. He would perform surgical experiments on them without anesthesia, and the screams could be heard around the area. Some even say that he would dismember his patients. It's said that he murdered dozens of victims. Legend goes that the area is haunted by the ghost of the Mad Doctor and his victims. Apparently there have been about 100 ghost sightings in the area, but none have been confirmed. If you're brave enough, why don't you take a stroll down this haunted area known as Schneider's Alley or Andrew's Walk and see for yourself. And that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below what place you want me to do an urban legend video on next. Now it's time to move on to our comment shoutout portion. I'll be shouting out comments from my video Top 10 Scary Conjuring Verse Theories. Angela Langoli Van Ruin commented, "The way your surname is written in the intro card makes it look like Nan." Ah, yes, that's me, Lindsay Nan. Kinda has a ring to it. It's not that bad. Lindsay Nan. Dello commented, "I like you on this channel, Lindsay. I hope you get to do it again soon." Well, I'm back, so you got your wish. Thank you. William Oldham commented, by the way, I like that. That's funny, Oldham. "Lorraine is based off a real person, eh?" Yeah, of course. She's based off of Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren were demonologists, and their story is pretty insane. Like, their cases fascinate me, but it's terrifying, everything that they've been through, but it's also super interesting. And that's all the comments I'm shouting out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shoutout. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Top 5 for some more spooky videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll catch you all later.
The hallmark of a good urban legend is relative believability. Sure, there are enough mass murderers and monsters to fill the collective minds of children around the world for years to come, but for something to capture the attention of the world at large, there has to be a little more substance. Or just as much substance as, say, Jack the Killer, but with a believable or less outlandish idea behind it. See, urban legends are a way for us to make sense of the world around us. We can manage threats better when we hear of dangerous things happening in stories. These myths act as proof of our beliefs and validate our worldviews even if they're not true. Considering this, you would think that in the age of the internet, where facts should be at our fingertips at any given moment, false beliefs would get squashed. This is unfortunately not the case, as people often read something and just immediately take it as fact. And these urban legends spread even faster now with some especially scary stories. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be counting down the top 5 scary internet urban legends. Before we get going, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more myths and magic. Perfect, let's begin. Coming in at number 5, we've got the two-striped Telemonia spider. We're gonna start this one off with an older tale. This one was actually quite popular back in the late 90s, the golden age of chain emails. It's likely that this urban legend was so effectively spread thanks to the relative inexperience of all online users, but it almost seems too silly to be real nowadays. Actually, wait. There are much less believable stories flying around the internet today. Never mind. Back to the actual urban legend though, there were many reports of the venomous two-striped Telemonia spider being found under public toilet seats. You know, as spiders do. Accounts were widespread, with stories popping up with various twists, making them seem like these spiders were biting and killing toilet users all over America. In fact, it got so popular that the Telemonia got a nickname, the butt spider. Seems legit. It gained notoriety through lots of chainmail and reposts, you know, the kind of stuff that your tech-illiterate great aunt would fall for. Don't forget to look, this is really scary in the subject line, etc., etc. One of the most famous chain emails detailed 3 bites in Chicago. The recipient suffered from fever, chills, vomiting, muscular collapse, paralysis, and eventually death. Sheesh, that is a scary spider, all from sitting on a toilet seat. The 3 women who fell victim to this terrible spider were seemingly unconnected until it was discovered that they had all recently visited the same restaurant. At first, people were blaming the food until a waitress came in to grab her check and use the washroom without eating. She also fell victim to these symptoms, which prompted investigators to check out said washroom. Lo and behold, they found a spider who liked cold, damp climates and had a deadly bite. The Arachneus gluteus. Seems silly now, but this spider was taken very seriously back then. This urban legend was actually started by a guy named Steve who wanted to prove how silly chainmail could be. He dropped in a bunch of hints like the name of the spider to ensure nobody would take it too seriously. But people still did, and they even put their own spin on the story, replacing ridiculous aspects with real ones. And as it circulated more folks became afraid of spiders and public washrooms. Way to go, Steve. You nailed it. Coming in at number 4, we have teens sewing their mouths shut. Parents will believe anything if they think it's harming their kids. Video games cause violence, classic books are bad influences, there are secret demonic messages in pop music. Now, those examples have been around for a while, even pre-internet. However, now that the internet is alive and well, there is a whole new category of bunk that people will believe has undue influence on their children. Viral Facebook posts with new moral panics attached each week. Stories about bullying, predators, dangerous apps, and more. It's enough to make your head spin. If someone can find an image of something seemingly dangerous and put a panicky caption below it, you better believe that all the Karens and Carols will share it like there's no tomorrow. The one we'll talk about today seems to imply that teens are going to undergo extreme body modification just for kicks. Folks were saying that teenagers had been sewing their mouths shut with needle and thread. I mean, I can see maybe giving yourself a piercing or a stick and poke tattoo, but why on earth would anybody sew their whole mouth shut for no reason? Posts were shared with an image of someone's lips apparently sealed via sewing kit, and folks were terrified that their kid would be the next to do it. Well, as it turns out, nobody was actually permanently closing their mouths. So what was actually going on? Apparently somebody had taken a screen grab from a YouTube makeup tutorial and convinced the world it was real. The actual image came from Promise Fan, who was doing a Halloween themed video where she cut dark string to different lengths and glued the pieces above and below her lips. It's a pretty convincing illusion with some makeup used to color the spot where each piece ended to make it look bloody and bruised. However, if you watch the video, you'd know that just by opening her mouth, the pieces fall away. But try convincing a soccer mom frothing at the mouth, though. Coming in at number 3, we got the Talking Angela app, unsafe for kids. I'm sure most people have heard some version of the story before, an app that spies on your kids and gets them to share personal information. Maybe it's run by hackers or pedophiles or both. This was a very popular tale when Talking Angela, a widely available app, was at the peak of its popularity. Kids could talk and interact with a Parisian cartoon cat with features like facial recognition, voice playback, and a text-based chatbot. Rumors about Talking Angela's safety had been circulating since release, with all sorts of folks claiming that it was a luring tool for pedophiles or a front for hackers to speak with children. This led to the urban legend getting a little bit out of hand, with Facebook moms posting all sorts of ridiculous stuff that even got picked up by news organizations. A lot of these posts read something like, "Attention, parents and grandparents, do not download this app. I just saw a post from another mom and it says that it takes pictures of your kids without you knowing, and it also knows where your kids are, and I asked my precious Caden what his name was and where he went to school. Oh, delete it right away or else." It's all very sensational, but hey, it's a new era of urban legends. Not all of this is totally unfounded though. Although it has been proven that Talking Angela is not run by hackers or pedophiles, it can engage in chat and ask questions, and it can share photos to social media. However, these features must be turned on by the user. I think the real lesson here is, don't leave little Taylor and Skylore alone with the iPad. They don't know any better. Coming in at number 2, we've got scary clown murders. Oh, Man, 2016 seems like it was so long ago at this point. I feel like I'm dredging up ancient memories that are actually only 4 years old. Who remembers the killer clown phenomenon, when creeps and freaks would wander around town in clown costumes carrying weapons? That was a wicked urban legend. Sure, plenty of folks were posting videos and pictures of the clowns meandering around, but most, if not all of these, were hoaxes. People had heard the rumors of it happening and decided to contribute to the legend in their own way. The first big story, though, was from the Global Sun, who reported that weapon-toting clowns had crossed the US border into Canada and killed 23 people. Yikes. People glommed onto this and it spread like wildfire. Unfortunately, not too many people read the whole article. If they clicked the link and made it to the bottom of the page, they would have realized that the Global Sun was a fake news site that doesn't publish factual stories. But by the time anyone had figured that out, it was too late. Clown fever had taken North America by storm. You couldn't log on to any social media without seeing some POV video of someone being menaced by a rubber-masked assailant in the middle of the night. It even got to the point where residents of Greenville, South Carolina reported that clowns were trying to lure kids into the woods. Like most urban legends, there was no real evidence to back any of this up. It just seemed like people's innate fear of clowns was being exploited. And finally, at number 1, we have Ebola zombies. Just like the more recent Corona zombies hoax, this story became legendary when somebody tried to capitalize on the fear and uncertainty surrounding a pandemic. After a Liberia-based newspaper published accounts of 2 Ebola victims coming back to life under mysterious circumstances, the internet exploded with theories and stories. Anything zombie-related seems to have a wicked grip on the minds of people everywhere, so this kind of story really sets the imagination alight. Remember the bath salt zombies and voodoo zombies? People just want a zombie apocalypse, I guess. So after the newspaper published a story about 2 women coming back to life, the locals started to panic. They thought that women were ghosts and shouldn't live among them. Eventually, it got enough traction to make it to an international news outlet, but all the reports were missing key details. There was no information on how or when the patients were declared dead, and there was nothing on what happened between their deaths and their resurrections. Seems a little fishy, right? Well, the rumors died down after a while, but reports of a 3rd victim coming back to life resurrected the Ebola zombie narrative. Even though this 3rd case appeared to be satire, the internet was once again ablaze with Ebola zombie chatter. Since then, there have been no additional reports on these so-called zombies and no corroborating resurrections. So if there were Ebola zombies, there weren't too many of them, and their animation was not contagious. How many of these 5 urban legends have you personally encountered? What's your favorite internet urban legend? Do you think there's any truth to these stories? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more shaky ones from the top 5 scary SCP urban legends. CL Lyman says, true story. Shortly after reading about SCP-3008, I heard a news report that IKEA announced that it was building smaller stores. Seems that IKEA corporate got wise to 3008 and wanted to distance themselves from it as much as possible. Although the pickup-only IKEAs seem to have gone under. Frank S says, sounds like my ex-wife, before she left me for a Super Saiyan 3 Goku Dakakimura pillow. I mean, it's a pretty nice pillow, I'm not gonna lie. Skelly Skeleton says, I'm wondering when you made these videos, do some of them scare you? I think I'm a pretty cool guy, and make videos and doesn't afraid of anything. Kristen Guerra says, some of these urban legends remind me of that Gravity Falls cartoon. Absolutely, Gravity Falls is a wicked vehicle for paranormal stories. And MTF Reader says, I'm not a horror head, I'm a horror leg. Ah! And that's all the time we have for today. Before I scale the Empire State Building with small blonde woman in hand, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more interesting ideas. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
The internet is rife with urban legends to the point that there is an entire site dedicated to them called Creepypasta. This is where folks house their terrifying stories to scare readers. However, some of these stories became so popular they were turned into legends. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 modern urban legends you won't believe. Before we begin, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at number 5, we have the Expressionless. According to this very bizarre legend, a nameless woman arrived at the Cedars-Sinai Hospital back in June of 1972 wearing a bloodied white gown. Now, what set this woman apart from the rest of the patients in the hospital was that she had a mannequin-like appearance, yet moved fluently like any normal person. Her face was devoid of facial features, and on top of all of that, the woman had a kitten inside of her mouth, which she pulled out before collapsing to the ground. Now, she was quickly rushed into a room and prepped for sedation, with the staff opting to restrain her just in case. However, when they attempted to inject her, the woman immediately fought back. She then rose from the bed and revealed razor-sharp teeth that were seemingly impossible to fit into her mouth. She then attacked one of the doctors, sinking her teeth firmly into his neck, killing him quickly. When authorities arrived, they couldn't restrain her, with the woman killing everyone in the hospital, with only one nurse surviving the onslaught, dubbing the woman the Expressionless. Since that day, there has never been a sighting of her, perhaps because she isn't real. What I don't understand is why she had a kitten in her mouth. That is the most bizarre part of the entire thing. Now, the origin behind this legend, it was uploaded on the internet, appearing on Creepypasta back in June of 2012. Coming in at number 4, we have Lavender Town Syndrome. This is a popular urban legend amongst gamers, specifically those who played Pokemon Red and Green in Japan. This legend began back in 1996 when there was an apparent peak in suicides and sickness in folks between the ages of 7 to 12 years old. Rumors began to spread that illness occurred in children who reached Lavender Town in Pokemon, with it being said that the town's theme music had extremely high-pitched frequencies that may have resulted in folks becoming sick or even taking their own lives. Due to this frequency, it is said that around 200 people took their own lives or developed illnesses and afflictions, with some complaining of severe headaches after listening to the music. The mass hysteria ultimately resulted in the programmers fixing the music to be at a lower frequency, and since then no complaints have been made. In Pokemon Gold, Silver and Crystal, the Lavender Town music was recomposed altogether to be happier, and the Pokemon Tower was demolished and replaced with the Kanto Radio Tower. The Lavender Town theme was also re-recorded for the 2017 Pokemon Go Halloween event. In at number 3, we have the disappearance of Ashley, Kansas. Now, this is a bizarre urban legend, but one of my favorites on this entire list. It is said that back in 1952, an anomalous incident occurred in the town of Ashley, Kansas. However, it should be noted that this isn't, nor has ever been, a real place. Sorry to burst your bubble. However, the legend states that back in 1952, an earthquake occurred in the middle of the night, resulting in strange happenings. Specifically, the town of Ashley, Kansas abruptly disappearing. When police went to investigate, they found nothing, only a smoldering burning fissure. It was said that the 679 residents of the town were missing. However, the search for them was called off after 12 days of searching. The legend also goes on to state that not long after, yet another earthquake occurred, and this time when the police went to investigate, the burning fissure was gone and the town was still nowhere to be seen. And that is all that is known about Ashley, Kansas, the town that supposedly disappeared overnight. Coming in at number 2, we have Slenderman. To quote the original Slenderman post on Something Awful, "We didn't want to go, we didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time." This is perhaps the most popular modern day legend on our list, with it crossing over into the mainstream with games and movies being made about this supernatural figure. Now, Slenderman originated as a creepypasta internet meme created by Something Awful forums user Eric Knudsen back in 2009. Slender is described as being incredibly tall, somewhere between 7 to 9 feet, as well as pale in complexion with an emaciated figure. He is sometimes portrayed with incomplete features such as empty eye sockets. He is also said to possess a handful of supernatural powers and abilities. He is said to be immortal, having lived for around 11,000 years without end, and any wounds inflicted on him instantly heal. Now, stories told about the supernatural character commonly feature him stalking, abducting, or traumatizing children. Now, outside of the internet, he has become an icon, with a prominent influence in popular culture, with video games being made about the figure, including Slender the 8 Pages and Slender the Arrival. However, things became very real with this legend back in 2014 when 2 girls attacked another girl and claimed to the courts that they did it for Slenderman, which is absolutely terrifying. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have the Russian sleep experiment. This urban legend emerged a few years back in 2010, so sorry to disappoint in advance, but this one is certainly not real, but that doesn't stop folks from speculating. Now, the legend itself recounts a supposed experiment that took place in the late 1940s in a Soviet test facility. According to the legend, 5 prisoners were kept in a sealed gas chamber with a continually administered airborne stimulant, which kept them awake for 30 consecutive days. Now, the prisoners volunteered for the experiment under the false promise that they would be released after the 30 days. For the first few days of the experiment, the prisoners behaved normally, chatting with one another and even talking to researchers through the one-way glass. However, over the subsequent days, things quickly turned much darker. After 9 days, one of the prisoners began screaming uncontrollably for hours on end, while the other prisoners seemingly had no reaction to the odd outburst. The man ultimately screamed for so long that his vocal cords burst, which makes me feel physically sick. I know this isn't real, but the idea of that happening is disgusting. Not long after, a second prisoner began screaming, while the others prevented the researchers from looking in by pasting torn book pages to the windows with their own feces. A few more days passed and things went silent, and after 15 days, the researchers decided to turn off the stimulant and enter the room. What they found was absolutely disgusting. One of the prisoners was deceased, and the 4 remaining survivors had performed severe mutilation on themselves, tearing off their own flesh and removing their own organs. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with that list? With any modern urban legends that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we're gonna do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scary cosmic horror endings. Kraken's Gambit said, hearing Lucy laugh is like hearing the laugh out of space. It's absolutely haunting to hear and gives me nightmares. Wakes me up better than coffee. To be fair, I don't like hearing my laugh either. When I scroll through the videos and I hear it, I'm like, that's how I laugh? I hate my laugh. Frank Miletto said, Underwater was also good. I need to watch it. Mostly for Kristen Stewart, because she's a gay icon now, and we like that. I also low-key love Twilight. Matthew Richards said, not sure if you have already read 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I remember being really confused by the movie's ending as well until I read the book. Essentially, the monolith makes him evolve to the next level for humans, just like it has been for eons in the story. The baby in space is him coming back to Earth, evolved by the monolith to help the humans on the Earth that can evolve to the next level. Holy that is not what I got from the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey. What I interpreted it as was, it's just a baby in space now. And maybe he's God? We don't know. Like, I did not interpret that as he is coming back to Earth to lead us, you know? But, go off. Who Me said, you only react to positive comments. Pathetic. Weak. I mean, I'm not here to, you know, shade the haters. Honestly, I don't get much hate. I used to react to all my negative comments, and then people used to comment saying, why do you only react to the negative ones? I remember those days. Remember when I used to read out the comments that you guys said I lived in the trash? Don't read those out anymore, do I? Anyway, you're pathetic, you're weak. Show me your face. I dare you. Mark Stone said, Lucy McPhee, guru of the creepy. Ain't that the truth? Put that on my tombstone. Tanner said, this is not a movie, but True Detective Season 1 has a great ending. That's very true. Great show. I need to watch Season 2. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Top 10 Central. You'll see me there on Friday. We are having a premiere. I'll be in the chat. And until next time, see you later. Coming in at number 2. He is also, how many times am I going to say that?